Hello, LinkedIn. Happy Wednesday, June 4th. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world while you're watching this right now. Welcome to HubSpot Setup Secrets, What Pros Do First. I'm Casey, and this series is all about answering one deceptively tricky question. What do you actually do first when you get in a new HubSpot portal? I've asked a handful of HubSpot pros to come share their real life approaches because no two admins do it the exact same way. And I'm here to learn right alongside you. Today, I have my friend Danielle with me. Hello, Danielle. Before we jump in, do you want to give a little bit of background on who you are, what you do? Click that.
Sure. So I am the CEO and co-founder of Cartographer Consulting. And prior to that was a solo consultant, just helping everybody with their HubSpot. I've been using HubSpot since about 2013. So I've seen it come a long way and become what it is today. But I like to tell my clients that means I know a lot of the quirks that have come with all of their acquisitions and expansions. These days, I cannot keep up with the updates. So thank God for Casey and George and Chris, who I can sometimes keep up with. So I don't know everything, but
I sometimes can't keep up with the updates. Every once in a while, they'll say one, and I'll be like, this is brand new. And George and Chris are like, no, it's not. We talked about it last week. And I'm like,
you're like, anyway. But yeah, I feel like I have a good handle on the platform, and I've been in, I don't even know how many portals at this point. So I'm very excited to talk about this because I see this in two different spaces. There's like, you are installing HubSpot for the first time. Maybe it's your first CRM, even because you're a small startup and just getting there and getting off of spreadsheets, thank God. Or you are coming into an existing account and the things that you want to look at first. And those are two very different things. But there are some commonalities and parallels, and I am excited to talk about it.
Cool. Well, I'm excited to have you. So the first question is, why is this question, what do you do first in a new HubSpot portal, so hard to answer? Why does everyone have a different answer?
It's because everybody has different background. Like if you're coming at this and you have been a career-long marketer, you're going to be like, what are you doing with emails? How are you automating your lifecycle stages? What kind of attribution do you have going on? Versus if you are like a salesperson, you want to go in and figure out what the pipeline stages are and how you create a deal and, how many deals there are, maybe some of the metrics around that. So like, it really depends what you care about. And as a consultant, we do the same thing. We've been talking about this a lot lately because I know some people have sort of a standard audit procedure where they come in, they can really efficiently take inventory of your account. We don't do that. And I'm like, should we do that? Should we work towards that? But in reality, everybody's coming in with a slightly different problem. It all looks the same on the surface, but they're like, oh, my reports aren't working. I'm like, okay, well, let's figure out why. And then you have to like pull back the layers on why isn't that what you think it is? And so even I do different things every time I get into a new account. It just depends on what you're looking for.
Yeah, I've said this before, but the reason I even started this series was I have a good friend who texted me and was like, hey, can you send me your HubSpot like audit template? And I said,
It's not real.
so here's the thing. I don't have one. I can send you some audits that I've done, but I don't have a template. And she was like, what do you possibly mean that you don't have a template? This is what you do. And I was like, yeah, it's just so different every time.
Yeah. Well, I got a show and tell from Ian Shields last week. Shout out to Ian. He's doing a really cool, like somewhat automated audit. And I was like, maybe I make my clients do this before I start working with them. So there are people out there who do really cool, like standard templated audits. But even that, he knows, is just to sort of figure out what the problem is to go investigate. Like it's just a general, it's like going to see a general practitioner. You don't know where you're going to go next.
Note to self, Ian Shields.
Yep.
You'll see a DM shortly. You're watching today.
Intro.
Expect a DM in the near future. So I think you put it really well earlier. Like there are two different like sides of this. And that's part of why I've liked having a couple different people in, because they look at it in different ways. So there is the like brand new HubSpot, what do you do first? And then there's also the like established HubSpot account, what do you do first?
Yeah.
But I guess you also mentioned there's some parallels, so maybe we start in the middle and then we can always work out as we need to. But Danielle, what do you do first?
It depends. Everybody's favorite answer.
Chris just came on and like shamed me for this whole series in his episode, so catch that one if you.
Well, I think thinking about the parallels, I'm almost always going to end up looking at life cycle stages and deal stages. So if you're coming into a HubSpot account for the very first time and you have had no CRM or you're migrating from another CRM, the first things that you want to figure out are like, what are the stages? Because that's defining how people are interacting with your business in like their buyer's journey. So you need to map that out to decide how your business is going to leverage those tools. But you also, if you're coming into an existing account, you need to understand what's there. Like, what are you working with? Are they defined? Are they correctly used and defined? And so I have a Miro template that I use, and maybe I can just like flash it up on the screen for a second here. That kind of works through the different, let's do a Chrome tab, this one, and then I can zoom in a bit. It sort of, this is the standard that you get out of the box from HubSpot. When you create a brand new HubSpot account, this is what you get. So you get the lead pipeline status is somewhat new. As we all know, leads were rolled out like a year and a half ago. And then went through like 6 changes since then. But you also have lead status that could tell someone how or where they are, where contact is in their buyer's journey. That lives on the contact record. Leads are their own record. Life cycle stages exist on both contacts and companies. Sometimes those are aligned. They will always be the same thing, but how it goes between contacts and companies can vary. And then you have deal stages in however many pipelines you have. The arrows show you where they are connected or there are automations that exist out of the box. The stars are the standard for how new contacts come in. So if you have not defined this, then every new contact that gets added to your account or to your portal will come in as a lead. So this is the starting point. It goes off the rails from here in like so many crazy ways. I had a scoping call yesterday where they were like, so we're going to create new leads in this pipeline. I was like, you did not say that you were going to create leads in a pipeline, in a deal pipeline. That is not what you're doing. Thank you for calling me. But you can find that, like that's real. People try to do that. And so figuring out how all of this connects together is usually step one for me, whether, we're migrating you onto HubSpot, you're coming into a CRM for the first time, or I'm getting into your portal and need to make sense of it. Like, this is my starting point. So I think I have this as a public link. I should share this on LinkedIn again.
Because this is going to exist whether you're a new portal or an existing one. If you're a new portal, you're going to have the out of the box, but obviously question one is going to be, does the out of the box fit for your business or not?
Probably does.
I also think coming into this can give you some clues onto pretty quickly. Life cycle stages alone, I feel like, can give you a good idea on how comfortable the team is with HubSpot, because especially the distribution of the life cycle stages. If a company has HubSpot but is not like using it to its full potential, maybe is how I'll qualify that. You'll see a bunch of leads. If they're using deals, you'll see opportunities and customers too, but like basically nothing in the middle because they just have the default set up and like haven't done anything else.
Right.
Also, if they have like a billion life cycle stages, then you're like, okay, they're super comfortable customizing HubSpot, maybe too comfortable.
Right.
Maybe it should be.
And we're gonna work on permissions.
We're gonna take a look at that. Lead meeting booked. Lead.
Yeah.
So I think this is a really good starting place, and even like you said, like how these are linked together. We we HubSpot consultants, HubSpot admins love connecting these things together.
Yeah.
Especially like if I can have my contact lifecycle stages moving and the lead status is moving along with the lead pipeline, like all of that moving all together
Yeah.
is a beautiful symphony.
And it rarely gets to the ideal state. Like, I end up working on those projects all the time because there's conversations where nobody has made the decision on, like, if a single lead gets added to an opportunity, or if a single contact gets added to an opportunity, does that make the whole company and all of the other employees at the company also an opportunity? And if no one has made the call on whether or not that's a yes, then none of it's going to work right. Like, you could have people who are getting, marketing nurture emails that say book a meeting when they're already in like final stages of an opportunity. And so you have to make the decision. And like in some cases that's fine. If it's, a single person, we were just talking about like productivity tools and subscriptions. That's a seat by seat basis. So if me and my co-founder are opportunities, we're in different buying cycles, despite the fact that we work for the same company.
Mhm.
Maybe there's a team plan that you could upsell us to if you have visibility into that. But at the end of the day, like, we are both individual leads despite working for the same company. There are a lot of cases, especially in actually most B2B sales cycles, you are going to have most of the employees of the company should be tied up to that opportunity. And so you have to create the automation and make sure that that's all tied together and you're moving across deals, companies, contacts, and potentially leads to make sure that all stays aligned.
Yeah, and, I have one of my clients in ed tech, and they have single teacher plans, but they
Mhm.
also have, like, school and district-wide plans. So
Right.
it can even get more complicated. A lot of times it does get more complicated, like, than that, where both can be true.
And that's why you call us.
Um, cool. Well, yeah, so obviously digging into all that stuff is helpful. Also, I mean, you get a pretty quick idea on like which objects they're using because those cover leads, contacts, companies, and deals, which are four of the major objects among the many objects in HubSpot.
Yes.
But they are commonly used ones. And I mean, leads are still fairly new. I find that they are still underused. People don't understand or see the value in them. So I think there's a lot of value in kind of looking into whether they're using leads or not as well.
Yeah, I would assume most people aren't, or they are for like a small sector. I also just pulled up the data model. Let me share one more time because that's another thing I go look at. It's one of my favorite things in HubSpot right now. Like, every time I'm talking to someone who is unfamiliar with HubSpot, I'm like, let's start here because this helps you understand like basically the database architecture that's
Mhm.
under the hood on your front end experience. It's
Mhm.
obviously dumbed way down, but that's great because now we can talk about it and you can start to understand it. And
Yes.
so if you come in here and you see all of these different records, it's like, oh, they're actually not using tickets. Like, there are 0 tickets, so we know we're not using them. And
Mhm.
then if they've got custom objects, they're going to show up in here and
Mhm.
figure out what they're connected to, what they are, how many records there are, and then start to dig in. Like, each of these things that we're talking about today is just the starting point for a project or
Yeah.
like at least a multi-hour task to get through. Like, okay, if all of these life cycle stages exist and this is how they relate to each other, how they ideally relate to each other, now what are the automations that are driving that? What are the settings? Who's changing it? What are the processes that update this? And the same is true here. Like, if you see a custom object, you're like, what is that? How is it connected to things? Is it associated to other objects?
Mhm.
It something deprecated? Did a third party just dump a whole bunch of data in there and then they cut it off? Like, you have to go figure out what it is and how it works in the context of that organization outside of HubSpot. Like, you can poke around in here and figure out a lot of things.
Mhm.
But at the end of the day, you still just have to have conversations with people. Be like, why?
Why does this exist?
Do that a lot.
Why? I think one of the hardest things about going into a new HubSpot, whether it's a new HubSpot or whether it's a existing, is figuring out where to focus.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I think, well, that's what I like about starting with like the life cycle stages and stuff, because it gives you an idea of like what's being used, but
Mhm.
also the data model. Like, okay, they're not using tickets. Maybe tickets would be helpful. Let's put that to the side though, because we need to figure out like what is happening in HubSpot before
Yeah.
whether or not tickets would be a helpful addition.
Yeah, for sure. I recently did a project for my company internally, where I decided to repurpose orders into basically my own version of a custom object because we don't have an enterprise level subscription as a 2-person consulting company, but we do have pro. And so I was like, well, what are some of the new out of the box custom objects that I could repurpose? And so now I'm doing this really bizarre custom coded workflow action that creates a whole bunch of orders when we close a deal. But it works. So if you come into my account, you'd be like, what in the actual heck are they doing with orders right now?
Have you renamed it, or is enterprise?
I have it. It's actually not, I think I could rename it, but it works fine as orders.
Yeah.
Because I'm basically trying to figure out what is the monthly recurring revenue forecast? Like how much money do I have coming in say August?
Mhm.
It's not easy to see that out of the box right now. And so I have a custom coded workflow action that when we close a deal, it creates a new order for each line item month and like each one-time thing. So then I can say like, okay, I have a one-time order and I have a recurring order, and then I have a recurring order and recurring, and then I get a full forecast.
You'd be really impressed with my Excel spreadsheet where I track my.
I was trying to even do that. I looked at third party. I looked at
No,
coefficient.
it's not impressive at all.
It was not easy.
If I want to look at what I'm going to bring in August, I manually put it all in and then say, oh, look at that.
I was 4 seconds away from throwing my laptop out and doing it on a piece of paper because it turned into like 135 lines of code. Like it's stupid.
I think I can't. Well, then looking at the data model, looking at the stages and statuses and how those are being used, anything else you do in all portals, whether new or
Existing.
sorry.
Words. Yeah, there's this sort of ambiguous where does data come from? And so that ends up being a lot of different checkpoints, and it kind of depends on what comes out of conversations and what the directive of the project is. But I want to know, like I said, if you see, 20,000 custom object records in there, and that could be because it's creating new ones every day, or it could be that you like connected some lead list database, dumped a bunch of crap in there, and then disconnected it. I want to go figure out like what are your integrations. So that's one place I'm going to check. I'm going to look at the I'll build a quick report to look at the original source or the record source of your contacts and companies. So if I need to know, like, are you mostly getting contacts in here from list imports, or do you have a pretty robust marketing go-to-market engine where we need to make sure that we're attributing everything properly? Then I want to see if that's being captured. Like, how is that coming through? So getting a handle on where does data in your portal come from is really important. And that comes from a lot of different places when you're trying to collect that information.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it can definitely be all over the place in many instances. And it can be messy. And one of the things I don't love to find, but like is always good to find, is some random app that's pushing bad data in, and you're like, hey, did you know that? And their marketing contact, they call me and they're like, hey, we need help. Our marketing contact limit, we just keep hitting it month after month. We can't figure out like why. And I'm like, so this thing here.
Those quick wins are always fun. We don't come very often these days, but they're nice to find.
It's a nice low hanging fruit. But yeah, it's important to know where the data is coming from. And to your point, like if most of the contacts are being created from list imports, then that changes a lot of other things potentially that you're doing too. Obviously, my background's marketing, so a lot of times I'm looking at what are we doing with email in the future, at least.
Right.
And if all of your leads are imported leads, that's going to shift my recommendations on what we do.
Yeah, for sure. Well, and that's a good pivot point for us, because if you're coming in with a marketing project versus a sales project versus a like general reporting project, the layers that you go into next vary so much. Because if it's a marketing project and you are, ramping up your email cadence and you're sending out more marketing emails, or you're sending out a new nurture campaign that you want to measure, we have to double check your deliverability. I want to look at the volume that you're already sending. I want to look at your marketing contacts limits and your management around that. I want to look at your subscription types, your opt-in flows, your unsubscribes, and just try to get a handle on like, what is the database that we're working with, so that when you launch this campaign, we've got every shot at success at our backs, to make sure that it works.
Yeah, I personally, a lot of times when I go into a new portal, I look at their email domain configuration very quickly.
Yeah.
Even if my project's not sending emails, I just have like, I just check.
Those quick wins makes me look really smart, if I can tell you that one.
Well, and if it's not configured, then like you have to get IT involved. It's a whole like, it's a whole thing.
Yeah.
So like getting the ball rolling on that can be helpful quickly. But yeah, I mean, why you got brought in is going to change what your focus is.
Yeah.
But also, I sometimes get hired because people are like, we don't understand HubSpot and we just need someone that understands HubSpot
Yeah.
here.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
sometimes it can
Love those.
be more broad than that too.
Yeah. And I love those cases though, because then it's like you get through sort of a kickoff call or a reverse demo with that person who's like, I don't know what I'm doing. And then you can teach them very quickly and start to build on top of that knowledge to really get them humming and like make their job easier, which is so much fun.
It is. It is. You can make a lot of progress like that.
Yeah, for sure. This is another good pivot point though, because while you're over in settings, checking out your domain records, that is also one of the first places I go when I get into a new existing account or new to me account. So if I'm coming in to help out, especially with like attribution and pipeline measurement, I want to go look at which of your sales teams and what your user setup is around those teams, which people on your sales team have set up email tracking and calendar sync, and how many people have meeting links set up and are using it. So then we look at, depending on the subscription they have to HubSpot, the team structure can matter a lot and how you're using those teams. And all of that is in settings. And that's not even talking about permissions. That's just like, do you have the tools hooked up? And arguably, that's one of the first things you should do if you are onboarding to HubSpot too. It's like, get the tracking on your website, make sure it's working properly, get your domains mapped so that you can send emails, and then get your team set up with the email extension so that it's tracking all the emails and the calendar sync, because then all of that just automatically starts dumping real, reliable data into your HubSpot account from day one. Even if you do nothing with it, you will be so happy that you have that available to you.
Yeah. I started this series because I was building out a program on what you should do in your first 30 days of HubSpot. And that was week 1 was set up your email, set up your calendar link, get your team to do all that too. Because a lot of the automation is possible once you've done all of that already.
Right. Yeah, it makes a huge difference.
Yeah. Yeah. Did we miss anything on your list?
I'm checking my list. Review default settings. I had a conversation with my co-founder yesterday on like, okay, we get into a new account or we have a new client. What's our internal process? And what does our like initial HubSpot audit look like every single time? It's obviously going to vary significantly based on what we were brought in for and what type of subscription they have, what their selling model is, their sales cycle length, all of that changes dramatically what we're going to look for. But I pulled up our Fathom conversation and asked Fathom, what are the first things we look for in an account? That list is to secure access and set up communication channels. So like we want to make sure we can get into your HubSpot account. So we usually send a partner link, and then review and audit HubSpot default settings. So that's where we get into a lot of the life cycle stages and things like that. And also get a handle on whatever spreadsheets and documents you have going on already, because we want to know if you've been tracking on a spreadsheet, which most people are tracking something in a spreadsheet. Like there's no one who is 100% in HubSpot, even my users. And I've done that too. Like I've used AppScript to pull things out of HubSpot to do reporting, but at least it's automated.
Yeah.
But then documents, if there's any documentation around what those stage gates look like and what the requirements are for life cycle stages, what the definitions are, we want to see that as consultants. Mm-hmm. And then review and audit of user configuration, including inbox calendar and team setup. So we just covered that. Mm-hmm. And review and audit of third-party integrations and data sources. And we already covered that. So I think that's my list. That's like the bare minimum. From there, we go off in 40 different directions, but when we start talking, that's what you can expect of like our first discovery call, our first kickoff call.
Yeah. And so it changes from there based on what you found. Also like what the current pain points are, which a friend recently asked me about, like, if someone gets hired to like be in HubSpot, what should they do? Like more general, but never, I don't think, are you hired and they're just really like, there's some pain point that they're having.
Right. There's a reason they want to throw money at this.
Yeah.
Like something hurts enough for them to make it go away.
Yeah. Like I mentioned, I do sometimes get people who are like, we don't know HubSpot. We need someone to help us with HubSpot. Right. But still that person is like, I am supposed to be emailing out of HubSpot, but I don't know HubSpot. So then, we're going through email.
Yeah.
So it's always, there's always something that you probably are already thinking of.
Yeah.
But sometimes you uncover stuff along the way, either way.
Yeah. And I've been saying this a lot lately about the reverse demo of like sitting down and seeing how people click inside of HubSpot is shockingly enlightening. And people are always like, oh, you probably don't care about this. I'm like, no, I do. Show me. Click the button and tell me what you're looking at. Because you find that people are not understanding things correctly or don't know that there's a feature available to them. And you can save them a lot of time and clicks. And sometimes it's like, oh, you're going looking for that property and you're doing, 5 clicks and 3 screens to get there. Well, then let me just build you something in the next 5 minutes that's going to shortcut that for you. Mm-hmm. And so then you identify those quick wins and you figure out like, how does that person interact with the team or interact with the product? And that makes such a huge difference for them in their day-to-day. And then also how we structure things moving forward. You just get such incredible context from that, like really menial click through screen thing.
Yeah. The call I was on before this, a client was asking me about tasks and I was like, show me your screen.
Yep.
I was not sure. And I was in the task screen, but tasks are also available in the sales workspace. And she was looking in the sales workspace, which is a small thing, but still I was like, I don't know what you're seeing.
Right. Well, and they could be talking about Outlook tasks. They could be talking about Asana tasks. Like you don't know. And you don't know until you ask and figure out, is there an integration? Is that coming from somewhere? How did the task get created? Do you care about these? Or is it just a black hole of 10,000 tasks, which I've seen on so many different portals? But that's like, show me. You can think that we don't care, but we really, really do. I want to see all the things you click on.
Yeah. And HubSpot keeps changing. There's different ways to do stuff. Yeah. So that's what we're here for.
Yeah. It's always fun. We can have this conversation again in 2 months and it'll be
that's true. All right, that's a wrap on today's HubSpot Setup Secrets. Huge thanks to Danielle for sharing your go-to first moves and behind the scenes thinking. If you have any tips of your own or want to be on a future stream, shoot me a DM. See you next time. And here